A while back, I did a video on Rclone, a program that you can use to back up and sync files to the cloud over a network or to storage devices. While I'm pleased with the response of the video, looking back, I know I could have done better. So here's my updated beginner's guide to Rclone. The first thing we need to do is go ahead and download Rclone. You can download Rclone by going to rclone.org and going to Downloads. I'm on Windows, so I'll get the 64-bit version and download the zip. You can also download Rclone directly from GitHub, and I'll have links in the description. And you just go to latest releases and download Rclone for your supported system. Once downloaded, we'll go ahead and extract the package. And the next thing we need to do on Windows is add Rclone to our system path. This is so we can use Rclone in the command line. What I'll do is go to my C drive. I like to place Rclone in a folder at the root called Rclone. And I'll just paste the executable here. And then in Windows settings, you want to go to About, Advanced System Settings, and under Environment Variables, go to your path and Edit. I'm going to click on New and locate that folder that you placed Rclone. In my case, it's going to be at the root in the folder Rclone. Now if I open the terminal and type Rclone, we see that Rclone is installed because it's giving us all these options. Now that we have Rclone set up, let's go ahead and set up a cloud service so that we can sync some data. In this example, I'll be using Amazon S3, but as you can see, Rclone supports a wide range of cloud services. Anyway, to set up a cloud service, we'll type rclone config. This gives us a couple of options, such as creating a new remote or cloud service. So we'll hit N, the option N, to create a new remote. Now we'll have to give it a name. You want to keep the name short and simple because this is the name you're going to be referencing for your source and destination paths. So I'll just call it S3. And then it gives us a whole list of services. I want Amazon S3 or Amazon S3 compliant. So I'll just hit 5, the option 5, and hit enter. Now there's some additional options for Amazon S3. I'll just stick with number 1 for web service. Next, we need to set up our secret and access keys. If you have these stored in your environment variables, you could just hit 2 for true. In my case, I'm going to hit 1 so I can manually enter the keys. And I'll supply the access key and the secret key. Now we need to set the region. I'll choose number 1 for US East 1. And we can set the endpoint. I'll just go ahead and hit enter for the defaults. Now we can set up permissions or access. Number 1 is full access, public read access, and so on. I'll hit number 1 and hit enter on these defaults. You want to edit advanced config? I'll hit enter for no. Okay with these settings? Yes. Enter for yes. And quit out of this with Q. Now if I type Rclone list remotes, it shows us our services that we're connected to. And if I do Rclone LSD on S3 : it shows all the buckets in my Amazon S3 account. Let's look at uploading and downloading files. We can do this with the copy command in Rclone. If I do Rclone LSD again on S3, we get a list of our bucket. And if I use the ls command on tray net backup, we get nothing because there's nothing in that folder. I'm going to go ahead and copy or upload my videos folder at the root of my C drive to the DreNet backup bucket in a folder called videos. So to do this, I'll just do rclone copy, and we need to set the source and the destination. The source in this case is going to be C videos, and the destination is going to be to my S3 : the bucket name, in this case, DreNet backup videos. Now there isn't a folder called videos in net backup, but it will be created by Rclone. Enter. It's complete. And if I bring up my S3 browser here and go to that bucket, we can see in videos has been created. I have the 2 videos that I uploaded. If I do ls on drain that back up again, we see it gives us 2 results, the 2 videos that we just uploaded. Next, I want to upload this sample.txt file into drain that back up. We do rclone, copy from the desktop sample.txt to S3 : the bucket name, and I'll place it at the root. And so I can see what's happening, I'll use the flag P for progress. And it gives us some information about the transfer and the amount of time it took. If I do ls on drain that backup again, now we see not only do we have the videos that we uploaded, we now have the sample.txt file uploaded. If I go back into S3 browser, we see sample.txt. Let's look at downloading files. Downloading is the same as uploading, except we switch the source and destination. LSF command on net backup. We have our videos and sample. I'm going to go ahead and delete the videos folder from the root of my drive. I'm going to go ahead and download that folder. We'll do rclone, copy, this time from S3, drain that backup videos, to my C drive videos. -P to get the progress. And we can see here the progress. And we're downloading these files. The videos folder has been created. And it's complete. And we now have our files back. If I wanted to download a single file, let's go ahead and copy the sample.txt into the C videos folder. And we now have sample.txt downloaded. Let's look at syncing. How syncing works is that every time you run the sync command, any changes made to the source will be mirrored to the destination. So if you edit or remove a file at the source, those changes will be made at the destination. If I run the command lsf on drain that backup, we get the videos folder in sample.txt. I'm going to use the sync command, rclone, sync, and set the destination, and set the source. I'm going to sync my software folder, which has a zip and a text file, to S3 : net backup software. I'm going to use the option -V. This will show each step of the process along with -P, so we can see the progress of this sync. And we can see what's happening here. It went really fast, but basically we transferred 2 files, 5 megabytes. And if I do lsf on net backup again, we now have the software folder. lsf on software shows the data. Now I'm going to go ahead and modify this downloads.txt that has simple start all back text. Now add Photoshop. Save that out and rerun the sync. And we see it checked 2 files. 1 file was transferred. And if we do rclone cat on that file, we can see the contents of downloads.txt, which says start all back Photoshop. So the changes were made to downloads.txt that's stored on Amazon S3. If I go ahead and delete this file and run the sync again, we'll see 1 file was deleted, lsf on software, and we no longer have that text file. Be very careful with sync because you can lose data this way, or you screw up the source and destination paths. When using the sync and copy commands, I suggest you use a dry run. This allows you to test your sync and copies to make sure that the proper files are being transferred. You can do this by applying the dry run flag to a command. I've gone ahead and deleted the software folder in the net backup on Amazon S3. And I'm going to resync the software folder, but this time we're going to dry run it first. Clear the screen again, and we'll use the sync command with dry run. And basically, it went through the motions of syncing without actually syncing any data. So no data was transferred. Instead, it tells us this zip file will be transferred and this text file will be transferred. Another thing to ensure that the proper files are being transferred is with the -I option or interactive. What this will do is ask you if you're sure you want to upload or transfer the file for each item. So in this case, it starts with start all back.zip. Are we sure we want to upload this file? We can say yes or skip it and so forth. I'll say yes. Now do we want to copy the downloads.txt? I'll say yes and transfer it. Let's look at filtering. You can create some incredibly complex and complicated filters to ensure that the proper files and folders get transferred when you copy and sync files, or when you do things like delete, move, or list files. I will do a video on filtering in more detail, but in this video we'll look at some simple filters that you can use to better control your syncing. At the root of my C drive, I have a pictures folder with a folder called wallpapers and this background image. I'm going to sync the pictures folder to Amazon S3 in a folder called pictures. In my wallpapers folder, I have Brave folder with wallpapers, and they're all of varying different types. Momentum wallpapers. Now I want to sync this pictures folder, but I don't want any files that are WebP. So we have some WebP images here, and I don't want those synced up. So what we can do is use the Exclude flag and tell Rclone to exclude all files that are WebP. We could do this with ** and the file extension WebP. I'll use a dry run on this so we can see what would happen. And we should see no WebP files being transferred. Let's go ahead and run this command. Transfer is complete, and sure enough, if I go into the pictures folder here and wallpapers, Brave, we should see no WebP images. Let's run this command again, except this time I want to filter out the Brave folder. So to filter out a folder, we can do /, and this is going to be in wallpapers, Brave, followed by a / and 2 asterisks. And everything is being copied except the Brave folder and its contents. It's complete. LSF on pictures. And we have the wallpapers and the image, but no Brave and wallpapers. Just momentum. Now, bear in mind that Rclone is case sensitive, so if you use the sync command, such as this, you have to make sure the name is the exact same as in your file system. If this is all lowercase, then Brave here needs to be all lowercase or it won't work. You can also use the ignore case flag, which will tell Rclone to ignore case sensitive. You can also use ignore case sync when syncing. That way you won't have to worry about case sensitivity. Let's look at include. So back at the pictures folder, and I've gone ahead and deleted it again on Amazon, I want to only include files that are of type WebP. We can use include. So include * WebP. And this will include all files, only files that are of WebP. Key difference in include is that it will only include the files that you specify and ignore everything else. So even though we're copying this pictures folder, only folders that have WebP images will be copied. And it's done. It looks like only 3 files were copied. LSF on wallpapers, Brave. And we see only these 3 files. And in S3 browser, we only have the wallpapers folder with Brave and those files. We don't have anything else. Remove this, and we're going to run this again. And now I only want the Brave folder. So clear the screen and do this again, and only include wallpapers Brave. And only the Brave folder should be included in the sync, not this image and not this folder momentum. It's complete. In S3 browser, if I refresh, we have wallpapers and just the Brave folder with its contents. These include and exclude flags can be repeated. So if you wanted to include a folder here and then another folder, you can stack them like that. Same with exclude. However, you should not combine the two. So if you use include in a command, don't also use exclude. In cases where you want to include and exclude, you use the filter flag. Pictures is gone. And I'm going to sync the pictures while filtering out everything except momentum and this file at the root of pictures. To start, I'm going to filter out Brave. In the filter command, when you want to filter something out, you use a minus sign followed by the path. In this case, I don't want wallpapers Brave, so I'll do wallpapers Brave. And I'm also going to filter out this image by type. It's a JPEG, so I'll do filter minus, and I'm going to target the root of the pictures folder on any file that's a JPEG or has the file type JPEG. And then I'll use the filter to include everything else in wallpapers. When we want to include something, we can use the plus sign followed by the path. And we'll do a dry run on this to see what happens. And we can see only the momentum folder is going to be copied, transferred. There's no picture at the root of wallpapers, and there's no Brave folder. So this sync is going to work. So let's get rid of the dry run and run this command. LSF on pictures, wallpapers, and we just have momentum with no other file or folders. Now this filtering looks a bit archaic, and in the upcoming video I'll show you a much better way for filtering using a filter file. Similar to what's in this file, where we specify what we don't want included in our backup and sync and what we do. And that would be done with the filter from in our filter.txt file. So be looking out for that video. Let's look at creating folders. You can use Rclone to create folders at a given point. You do Rclone mkdir. I'll create a folder on my desktop here and call it Brave. And we see the Brave folder here. If we do the same command on, say, Amazon S3 by remote, we get an error because Amazon S3 cannot have empty directories. Some services support this, some don't. You can create empty folders on USB devices and network drives. I'll go ahead and create a folder on my NAS here, labeled in. I'll do mkdir on in. And we see the folders created. Now I'd like to show you how to move files and folders. On Amazon S3 here, I have the Brave folder, and I want to now move the Momentum folder over into Pictures Wallpaper. We can use the move command, rclone move. We want to move Momentum. Notice I'm on my desktop, so I'm using the relative path here to S3, and let's run that. And if we open up this folder, we can see here the files are being deleted from the destination as they are being transferred. It's complete. And if we refresh in Pictures, Wallpapers, we have Momentum. Let's look at deleting files and folders. We'll start by deleting this folder, Momentum. We can do rclone, rmdir, in the path of the folder or file. And Momentum is gone. Simple as that. rmdir only deletes empty folders, so if I did this again and copied the sample file, ran this command again, we get an error because this folder is not empty. If we wanted to delete the folder and all of its contents, we can use the purge command, rclone purge Momentum. And it's gone. Next, I want to delete a file. And if I do LSF on my S3 Pictures Wallpapers Brave, you see some files here. And I want to delete this Spencer Moore Desert image, this WebP image. So what I'll do is run the delete command and tell rclone to delete this image. We do LSF. We see the image is gone. Let's tell rclone to delete the Brave folder itself on Amazon S3. So we'll do rclone delete LSF on Wallpapers, and we just have Momentum. Now, usually when you use the delete command, it will only delete the content and leave the folder structure itself alone. However, we can't have empty folders in Amazon S3, so that's why it's completely gone. I've added a Brave folder here on the desktop with an image in it, and if I run this command again, but this time Brave on my desktop, and we click it, we see that it's empty, but the folder is still present on my desktop. While rclone is commonly known for being able to access cloud storage, you can actually use rclone to sync and back up data over a network or to a USB device. Here we have a USB drive labeled E, and I've got some documents on here. I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and I'm going to sync over my documents that I have on my C drive to the drive. rclone sync documents to E, and I'll create a folder called Documents. And we can see the progress, and Documents folder has been created on that drive. Likewise, if I wanted to send files over to the network on my NAS here, like we did earlier, I could simply use the letter drive itself, or I can use the IP address of the device. Plus the share name, in this case is called Net Backup, and Documents. And again, on over my NAS, I have documents with my NAS storage reports being copied. You can also use the name of the server What I'll do now is copy the videos folder, and instead of using the IP address, I'll use the name of the server plus the share name and where I want to store the data. Again, we have videos. Using Rclone, you can actually mount all the cloud-connected services to your PC as network drive. If I do Rclone mount on my Amazon S3 and give it a letter name, I'll give it J, colon, and hit enter, we'll get an error because in order for this to work, we'll need to install WinFSP. This is a very simple program that simply allows Rclone to mount cloud storage as network drive. So for this, all we have to do is type wingit install WinFSP. This will go ahead and install that little program. And we'll walk through the installation. It's complete. Clear the screen here. Now, when we run this command again, it started a service. If I go to my PC, we see we have my drive here. And this is my Amazon S3 with all of its buckets, where I can go into Net Backup and look at all the files. Now, notice this drive is listed under Devices and Drives. If you didn't want that, you can actually use Network Mode to have it listed under Network Locations. I'll use Control-C to get out of this and run the command again, this time append Network Mode. Now, we will see it listed under Network Locations. Some programs might not work well with files served in this way. When you run into issues like that, you could simply use the VFS cache mode and set the level. In this case, I'll use full, and you can also use writes. You can learn more about the differences between writes and full in the documentation. Just know that for best compatibility, you want to include the VFS cache mode. If this is a feature you want to use more often, it'd be best to set up a task to automatically run this when you log on your PC. If I open up Task Scheduler and create a new task, I'll go ahead and create a task to automatically run this script so that I can connect to my S3 the moment I log into my computer. I'll just call it mount Rclone. Under Actions, I'll create a new action and we'll start a program. And I'll point to the Rclone executable. So C, Rclone, exe, and then the command. So we're going to mount our S3 to J in network mode. I'm also going to set the flag no console to hide the console window when it starts. Hit OK. Yes. If I close this, log out, and sign back in, we should see we're connected to S3. Now I'd like to show you how to create a backup and sync script that we can use to automatically back up at a given time or manually. I've gone ahead and deleted everything in the TradeNet backup bucket on Amazon S3, and I want to now sync or back up my documents, videos, and software folders. What I'll do is create a new file on my desktop, and I'll call it backup.bat or CMD for script. I'll do a batch file. And all we have to do is just put the script. So first I'm going to reference the executable C rclone, rclone.exe, and the command that we want to run. If you want to do a traditional backup, you could just use the copy command, which will only upload changes and new files, or sync if you want the destination to mirror your source. In this case, I just want to do a backup, so I just do copy. And since we know everything is going to be coming from the C drive, we'll say C onto S3 in the tray net backup bucket. Now we're going to apply filters because we're not going to obviously upload the entire C drive. So we'll use the include filter to include our 3 documents. So include documents. We'll also include software and videos. I'll apply ignore paste -P for progress. And to see how this is going to work, we'll use dry run. And I don't want this to exit out, so I'll do CMD K and save. And I forgot this needs to be net backup, not net back. So we'll save that out and run this. And we see our dry run is complete and it's going to back up 400 megabytes. So now let's go ahead, get rid of this dry run. And now we know our script is going to work. So I'll get rid of this because we're not going to need this when we automatic backup. And get rid of this -P. Save this again. And now the next thing we need to do is create a task so that Windows can run this script, this batch file. Actually, one other option I want to add here is no console. This will prevent the console from opening in our face when the file runs. Now we'll go back to Task Scheduler and create a new task for our backup. I'll go ahead and delete this mount. Create a new task. I'll have it set to 12. Now we're going to run it manually, but just to show you how to set this up. So run the backup at 12 a.m. every day, and we can repeat the task. I'm just going to say okay. And under actions, we'll start a program, a script, and we will run the backup.bat and hit OK. Now I'll manually trigger this by right-clicking and say run. Now it hit the console, but it is backing up. If I go to the S3 browser here and refresh, we can already see files have been copied over. And if I go into my videos, we don't have those videos files yet, but they will be coming. The console is here, running, and it's complete and closed. Back at Amazon S3, if I refresh, go to videos, I have all the data that I said I want to back up. So the backup was successful. That was a very simple and basic example of how to use Rclone for backing up and syncing. The true power in Rclone is with its filtering. Let's look at serving files over a network or the internet. Using Rclone, you can set up your cloud storage as a simple file server with support for HTTP, WebDAV, FTP, SFTP, even REST and Docker. All we have to do is do Rclone with the serve command and the protocol that we want to use. In this case, I'll do HTTP in the cloud service, : Then if I go to my browser here and under localhost, I believe the default is 8080 port, but you can customize this. And it opens up our S3. And I have access to my S3 buckets. You can customize the port if you want, or the entire IP address with the address flag. I'll just change the port to 8088, and I'll set a user with the user flag and set a password, the pass flag. You might get this little Windows security warning, allow Rclone access. And now, when we go to port 8088, we have to put in our password, our username and password. And we've got access. You can then set this up to work outside your network, but I strongly recommend against that, as this is really for basic file, but it is a really cool feature. One last major feature I want to show you with Rclone is the web interface. You type the command rclone rcd with the flag rc web GUI, will actually start up the web interface that you can access. And this is a highly functional little web interface that you can use for managing Rclone, as well as monitoring transfers. Under config, you can see all of your connected cloud services. I have S3. You can also go ahead here and add a service from here. What if I wanted to add B2? You can select our type, supply some keys, and now I have B2. Under Explore, I can browse my cloud services. Maybe I want to look at B2. Open that up, and now I can look at all my files. S3. And here you can actually upload files, download the file. Backend gets you a whole bunch of information and settings about Rclone. Under mounts, you can actually quickly mount a cloud storage. What if I wanted to go ahead and mount B2, give it a letter, maybe H. You can set all these options and parameters, and then it mounts on my desktop here, or I can go and browse my buckets. You can unmount directly from this interface. So this is a really convenient way to manage Rclone without having to always use the command line. Lastly, I want to show you how to update Rclone. Through Rclone, we can see self-update command. With self-update, we can update Rclone. And it says we're up to date. If there was an update, it would go ahead and download the latest version. And by the way, all of these commands you can see and get help with using Rclone, the command itself, followed by 8. And this will give you information about a particular command and how to use it. All of Rclone's configuration data is stored in the Rclone config file. To find this file, you can use Rclone config with the option file. App data roaming Rclone, we can see the file. It is effectively a .ini file that contains information about all your cloud storage connections and their options. Rclone is an exceptionally powerful piece of software, and in my opinion, easily one of the best backup and sync solutions you're going to find. Understand that I've only scratched the surface of what this lightweight cross-platform little program can do. I didn't demonstrate it, but you can even copy and sync files from one cloud provider to another. In an upcoming video, I'll be covering more advanced filtering and syncing options.